Who's paying the price? We, the working class in countries like the United States, we pay the price in that we have to finance this. Does anyone out there think that the leaders of Europe and those in the United States, in the intel communities, the State Department, etc., does anyone really think that the number one concern of these leaders around the world, in the Western world, is the well-being of the individual Ukrainian people? Does anyone believe that? Does anyone believe they're saying, hey man, even if we get nothing in return, all we give a shit's about helping the Ukrainian people and their democracy? Does anyone believe that? I'll be interested to see if anyone does believe that. Even the people I talk to that are super pro-Ukraine will admit, it's sort of like saying this, hey, do you really think that Nike's pro-Black Lives Matter? Do you really think? Do you think all these corporations that were jumping on the LGBT shit and jumping on the Black Lives Matter, you think they really give a shit about those causes? And most of the lefties will be like, no, they're just saying it. They're just doing it for personal profit. Right. It's the same here with these world leaders. They really don't give a shit. I could briefly explain to you how I know that. Because if it's really about protecting democracy and stopping the people that are invading, well, then we wouldn't have invaded Iraq or Libya, and we wouldn't have supported the overturning of the Romanian elections, and we wouldn't have worked with Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra in Syria, and we wouldn't have funded terrorist groups around the world. But we did. Why? Well, because geopolitically it made sense to these people. They saw some sort of benefit for their interests. And that's not to even speak of, you could throw a dart and hit a country, particularly Africa, Middle East, Asia, and find countries with corruption where people are being butchered, etc. Why aren't we going in all of those countries? Claims that Uyghur Muslims are being enslaved in China, and yet NBA's in China, countries in Europe, the United States, etc. does business with China. Why? If it's really about stopping human rights abuses? Well, because it would be more difficult, and there's more important things geopolitically. So, given that it seems that almost everyone, at least right now watching, either agrees or is being silent with their disagreement, once we say, no, the reason that the world, even the reason that European leaders and leaders in the Biden administration, etc., were supporting Ukraine was they were getting something out of it. That raises the question, as a leader, what does Zelensky have to offer Western leaders? What's he have to offer? Someone said grain. No, that's not it. If it was just about grain, they could have encouraged a peaceful resolution and let them get back to farming. Oh no, he has something. There's one thing that he has. And I'll bet if someone gets the right answer, they're cheating. They watched my video earlier. It's not tears. It's not minerals. It's not even... Money laundering has a play in this, but that's not the big thing. There's one commodity that Zelensky has. Shares a border with Russia. I intuit that what you're trying to say there is that it harms Russia, right? Or it's defense against Russia for... That's getting there. But that's not the commodity. You want to know what it is? You want to know what the commodity is? It's not information, no. It's dead Ukrainians. That's what Zelensky can offer. That's right. Zero gets it. It's cannon fodder. That's what Zelensky can offer. Zelensky's bargain to the European leaders and the Western leaders is, I got a ton of bodies to throw in the meat grinder. That's it. That's what he has. And that's what they want. They want to give Russia Vietnam. They want to give it a repeat of Afghanistan. That's what they want. They didn't want Ukraine to win quickly and Russia to run back home with the tail between the legs. That wasn't in their interest. They didn't want a peaceful resolution as soon as possible. They want the meat grinder to keep on churning. That's what they want. If you listen closely, you can hear them say it sometimes. They'll throw it out there as like an aside. And besides, we're getting out cheap for $200-something billion. We're bleeding out Russia. This is a great thing. But you see, here's Zelensky's problem. What happens when the bodies run out? Then what? What's that look like for Zelensky then? You could say, well, what's it look like for the people of Ukraine? Well, many of them will be dead, so it doesn't look good for them. So what's it look like for Zelensky? All right, dog, we're out of here. Good luck to you. Ask Libya. That's what it'll look like. You see, the truth of it is, because bodies is what Zelensky has to offer, that the ending was always going to be the same. The ending was going to be that this brutal war would go on and on and on until eventually the West would be like, okay, we're done. We no longer see value in this. We've moved on to the next shiny object. So you should see what you do. Let's try to negotiate a peace and get out of here. That's always how it was going to end. You see, the difference between ending the war 2 years ago with a attempted peaceful resolution then, to doing it now, to doing it whenever the rest of these Western leaders, eventually 2-3 years, whenever it is, when more bodies have piled up. The difference is, in the terms of Ukraine's perspective, way more of their people dead, and their bargaining position is worse off. That's how it was always going to end. Okay, I see some of you saying, I don't believe that it's not about bodies. Okay, if that's the case, then why didn't Europe do more? Why is Europe still buying Russia's oil? Why didn't the United States do more? If it's really a matter of there's no peace deal possible because Putin is an insane maniac, and therefore we have to see this to the end, why haven't they done more? It almost looks like they've strategically did just enough to keep it close to a stalemate. Why? Are they incompetent? Is that the answer? At least at the beginning of it, there was massive public support in the United States and Europe. Why didn't they do more? But Rob, you didn't want them to do more. Of course, I was in the minority. Much like lockdowns. I was against lockdowns for the pandemic. But if you're gonna do them, then you gotta do them all out, or it's not gonna work. You don't tell working people you're non-essential. You can't go visit your family, but you can go to Walmart, you can go to Home Depot. What the hell sense does that make? As if you can't spread the virus at those places? Same here. You sent just enough to keep it a perpetual stalemate? And millions of bodies piling up? And they're gleeful about it. But way more Russians have died. Right, that's the point, isn't it? That's the whole point from the perspective of the West. But Russia's losing. They're not wrong. When it comes to bodies, Russia's losing an awful lot. There's debate on how many, blah, blah, blah. It's fucking grotesque. It's a lot. Oh boy, they say, great. But what happens when the bodies aren't there? They don't want to send their own bodies. They don't want to do that. Let the Ukrainians die. They want to anyways. They say, gleefully, we stand with Ukraine. We back Ukraine. Oh, so you're going to go fight? No, we're good. Nope. No, we're good. But they should fight. They want to. They want to fight. I at least respect people like Dylan Burns that were like, we should send more. We should send stronger missiles. We should send... Now, I think that there's huge problems with that from the perspective of it could lead to World War III. But if you're concerned, if you're just looking at it from the perspective of Ukraine, then why not? Think of a negotiation like a percentage. If one side is completely won and the other side has no hope, they have like 100% of the advantage and the other side has 0. Rarely that's the case at the negotiating table, but it's happened. So let's say that the deal that supposedly people in the Biden administration and spearheaded by Boris Johnson, of all people from the UK, basically told Ukraine to walk away from 2 years ago. At that point, if you remember, I do believe that Russia was a little bit shocked. I think they thought, yeah, of course, the West will back Ukraine, but it'll take the Ukraine a lot of time to be able to catch up, and by that point, we're going to have stormed through Ukraine. And chalk it up, I don't know, maybe Zelensky's leadership, maybe Russia sucks, they were overconfident, maybe it's the insane bravery of Ukrainians fighting for their home country. But I think they surprised Russia. I really believe that. Their negotiating position there would have been like 40% to Russia's 60, 45% to Russia's 55. Not good. You're still going to have to give more up to the side that's stronger. But what is it today? 30-70? What is it if the United States is like, you know what, we're good? Then what's the bargaining position? 10%? What if the United States keeps the status quo going? Just does the Biden plan and the rest of Europe and say, here's just enough, keep the meat grinder going. What's it look like 2 years from now? I'll tell you this much, their bargaining position will be less than it is today. And who's paying the price? Yes, we, the working class in countries like the United States, we pay the price in that we have to finance this. And so it affects our bottom line financially. People that rely on resources from the region, they're affected. But the people by far that are the most affected are average everyday Russians and average everyday Ukrainians. They're paying the brunt for the hubris of the leaders of Russia and the leaders of the Western world. That's who's paying the cost. So spare me the moral grandstanding from the people. Again, I remind you, why is Europe buying anything from Russia right now? Anything at all. They can't suck it. If it's such a moral cause, suck it up, right? Oh, it's not worth that? That's the truth. You might have a big heart for the Ukrainian people, but I'm telling you, the people running the show don't give a shit. They don't care. And it was always going to end up with the Ukrainian people getting screwed.